If the cloth garment was taken outside the curtains, he should re-enter with it and wash it in a holy place. If it was contaminated with tumah outside the curtains, he should rip it and then re-enter and wash it in a holy place.
Okay, so just pause a second. The reason why we have to do that is because if it's tameh, you can't bring it back in. But on the other hand, you have a chiyuv to bring it back in to wash it. Okay, so what do? You have to tear it to the point where it's no longer makabel tumah. So you got rid of it. So you got rid of the tumah by tearing it, and that's going to be all the rest of the cases over here that we're going to see. That's something that needs to be washed or broken or whatever, or kashered inside the azara. If it became tameh outside, now you got to bring it back in. You got to find a way of removing the tumah first, and then you can whatever you need to inside. So carry on.
If it was contaminated with tumah outside the curtains, he should rip it and then re-enter and wash it in a holy place. If the earthenware vessel was taken outside the curtains, he should re-enter with it and break it in a holy place. If it was contaminated with tumah outside the curtains, he should puncture it, and then re-enter it and break it in a holy place. If the copper vessel was taken outside the curtains, he should re-enter with it and purge it and rinse it in a holy place. If it was contaminated with tumah outside the curtains, he should breach it, re-enter, and purge and rinse it in a holy place. Whether one cooked in it or poured hot liquid into it, or whether it was the meat of the most holy offerings or the offerings of the less holiness, they require purging and rinsing. And Reb Shimon says offerings of lesser holiness do not require purging and rinsing. Reb Tarfon says if one cooked in it from the beginning of the festival, he may continue to cook in it for the entire festival. But the Kachamim say, with the conclusion of the period of eating comes the requirement of purging and rinsing. Purging is as one purges a cup, and rinsing is as one rinses a cup. Purging is done with hot water and rinsing with cold water, and the spit and the grill are purged in hot water. Okay. Good.
So that's so we see over here a couple of principles that we're going to apply to kashrus, because what we're dealing with in the mikdash is something that had kodshim cooked in it, so now it's got the time of after the time has passed, it's got the time of nosar in it, which is asar. So that's why we have to kasher these dishes, and it doesn't matter. Chatas has to be done specifically inside the azara, but any other kalim, like if you're eating shlamim outside, then you can then it can be kashered anywhere. Okay. But the interesting opinion over here is that of Rabbi Tarfon. He says that if you come to, he said in this last Mishnah that if you come into the Mikdash, if you come into the Yerushalayim during, let's say, Pesach, and you're busy eating shlamim the whole week, so because that's what you do. You bring korbanos and you eat and you gorge on meat for the week. He says so what happens is, he says, let's say on first day Chol HaMoed, you brought a shlamim. Okay, so now you cooked your shlamim inside the pot, and the shlamim has got a 2-day period. So whatever's inside the pot on the second day is still mutar. Okay, so let's say you made some more shlamim and you cooked it again. So according to Rabbi Tarfon, the taste of the shlamim from the first day came out of the pot and into the food of the second day, which is still mutar.
Right.
Okay. And that way, and then the taste of the second day's thing went into the wall. And he's saying, like, every day you've got this rolling thing. As long as you're continuously using the pot, you don't ever have a problem of nosar, because every time you cook with it, you're taking the taste out. But here's the minority opinion. We hold the halacha that once you've cooked something in there, we have to be choshesh that something stayed in and is going to come out later, and you'd have to kasher it anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, but that's an important opinion to hold, to remember that when it comes to kashering things, that there is actually a Tana who holds that every time you cook it, the taste comes out. Okay. Mishna ches bishel bo kodshim v'chulin. So if somebody cooked in a pot both kodshim and chulin, or kodshim v'kodshim kalim, or he did most holies and lesser holies in the same pot. If there is a taste of the holier object in the less holy object, then the more lenient ones have to be eaten with the stringencies of the more holy, because they've got once they've absorbed the time, they become more stringent. The einan tu'unim mirika ushtifa. They do not need to be purged and rinsed. Ve'enam poslim b'maga. And they do not cause it to become tameh, at least a puzzle with touching. Let's just see what that means. So our Mishnah over here is holding like Rabbi Shimon, and that's an important point because Rabbi Shimon above said that kalim that were cooked, that had kuchim kalim cooked in them, do not need merika and shtifa. They therefore when there isn't a taste in the kuchim kalim, the kli doesn't require merika and shtifa like it would with the so if there was a taste in it, okay. So this again is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. It's actually not the majority opinion. The einam poslim b'maga. If the more chamer ones are pasul, the taroves, the mixture, doesn't pasul something else by touching it, even if it's absorbs a little bit. You've just got to take off a bit from the edge where it's touched. Rakik is a wafer, which shinaga berakik, that touched another one. So one was pasul and one was kosher, and they touched each other. Bechaticha, or a piece of meat that touched another piece of meat. One of them pasul, one of them kosher. Lo kol harakik v'lo kol hachatichos asorin eno asor ele makom shebala. The only place that becomes pasul is the place where it actually touched and absorbed. You can cut away from the kosher piece where it touched the pasul piece and may have absorbed some taste. You take that away, and the rest of it is okay. Okay. Perek Yud Beis. Tul Yom Mechus HaKippurim. So a guy who has been to mikveh, but is waiting for the evening to come, or Mechus HaKippurim. He still has to bring a korban, for example, a zav or a matzorah. He's been to mikveh and he's already had harav shemesh, but he hasn't finished bringing his korban to complete his purification process. Einan cholkim b'kodshim lechol la'erev. So these people do not get, if they're kohanim, they do not get to share in the korbanos that are going on. He's got to be kosher to eat the korban at the time that the korban is shechted. Okay. Onein nogea ve'eno makriv. So a kohen who's an onen, he's on the day of the death of a close relative, he is an onen min Torah, and he's not allowed to do the avoda, but he is allowed to touch he's allowed to touch the korbanos. It's not a problem for him to touch it. He just can't do the avoda. He right eno makriv, eno cholek le'echol le'erev, and he also cannot take a division of the meat that's being prepared on that day to eat even that evening when he's no longer an onen.
What would be the purpose of touching the meat? Just to feel a sense of holiness, or to feel.
Well, if he touches it, if another kohen says, "Listen, I need some help. Can you help me carry some meat back to my?"
All right, got it. Okay, got it. I
thought he's not doing avoda. But he's allowed to touch it, even though he's not allowed to eat it. Okay. Bale mumin. So a kohen who's got a mumin, he's not allowed to do the avoda. Bain bale mumin kavuin, bain bale mumin ovrin, whether it's a permanent or a transient mum, cholkin v'ochlin, they are still entitled to eat the korbanos of the day. So it says they're not allowed to do the avoda, but they are allowed to eat, and that's there is a cost of it. It says that a kohen is a baal mum, he can't do the avoda, but he can take a share. Aval lo makrivin, they just cannot do the avoda. Any other kohen who's not. But any other kohen who's not allowed to do the avoda, eno cholek babasar, he cannot take it. It's only the baalei mumin who get the special dispensation that they're allowed to eat even though they can't do the avoda. But anyone else is not allowed to take a share. Ein lo babasar, ein lo baoros. Afilo tame b'shas zrikas damim. So any kohen who's in the category of not being allowed to have the meat also does not get to take a share of the skins. Remember, with the ola, all of the flesh goes onto the mizbeach, but the skin goes to the kohanim. So it's the same decision that we have over here. If he's allowed to take the meat of a chatas, he's allowed to take the skin of an ola. Okay. Afilu tame b'shas zrikas damim. Now, even if he is tame at the time that the blood was thrown, and he was tahor at the time that the chalavim, the parts of the animal were put on the mizbeach, eino cholek b'basar. Okay, he still cannot have from the meat. Shenemar hamakrib es dam hashlamim ve'es hachelev mibnei Aaron Lo siyah shok hayamin lemana. Only the Kohen who is actually tahor and who is competent who is qualified to do the avoda, only he can take the meat. Even if so, at the time of the zrikas damim is where we determine that he's eligible or not. So even if he went to mikveh afterwards, in other words, he went to mikveh and it was he had hari of shemesh before they put the parts on the fire. That's still not qualified. Okay. Any animal where the mizbeach does not get the meat, lo zachu hakohanim ba'ora, then the kohanim also don't get the skin. So let's say the animal became pasul. If they discovered that the animal was pasul after it was shechted, and they see, oh, this animal's a treifa, or it's a balmum, or whatever reason, if the mizbeach doesn't get the parts, then the kohen doesn't get the skins, because it says olas ish, ola she'alas ala ish. It's only an ola that can be counted for a person, right? And that, by the way, Kahati makes a distinction that's only if the psul happened before the animal was skinned. If the animal was already skinned, and then they started cutting it up into parts, and it became tameh, let's say. You say, okay, we can bring this up on the mizbeach now. Do the kohanim still get the skins? Yes, they do, because the psul happened after it was skinned. And so that's just a sort of a detail that's not mentioned explicitly in the Mishnah. Okay. Now, what happens if you have an ola shenishchata shelo? So the ola was shechted for the wrong thing. So the kohen who shechted it said, this is for a chatas, right? And the Baalim said, no, it was for an ola. And he says, oh, whoops. Now I can't. Okay, what do we do with this now? Do we get the skins? Well, remember the first Mishnah we said in Zevachim, any korban that was shechted not for its own sake, can it go into the mizbeach? Yes, it can, except for a chatas. Okay, and for a pesach on the pesach. Okay, so since the ola, even though it doesn't count for the baalim, it still goes on the mizbeach, and therefore the kohanim still get the skins. Okay, it makes no difference whether it's the ola for a man or for a woman, or a sayin kohanim. The skins go to the kohanim. And I was looking at this and wondering, why did the Mishnah feel a need to mention it makes no difference between a man or a woman? There must have been some sort of hava amina that for a woman it would be different. And I don't actually know what the difference is. Does ArtScroll make a mention of why it mentions woman?
No, I don't see anything about a woman here. No, I don't see anything.
The Safaria. I'm just going to take a quick squiz at Safaria and see if there's anything mentioned there. Mishnah, Zevachim, chapter 12, Mishnah 2, commentary. Oh, okay. Because so Safaria brings a comment that says that even though the Torah says man, it says you might have thought that only the man's korban goes to the kohanim, because the Torah says the word ish. The priest nonetheless receives the hide of the sacrifice, even if it was brought by a woman. The word man in this context is not meant to exclude a woman. Yeah. Okay.
There's nothing here about that at all.
Yeah. Okay, but that's the explanation given here. All right. Okay. So let's go back to.
I have Chet Yud Aleph. Blood that is applied inside, which became mixed with blood that is applied outside, should be poured into the canal. If he applied it outside and then applied it inside, it's valid. If he applied it inside and then applied it outside, Rebbe Kiva disqualifies. But the common validate for Rebbe Kiva had said all offerings whose blood was introduced into the sanctuary to atone are disqualified. But the comments say only a katos offering. Reb Eliezer says also the asham offering, for it is said as katos offering, so the asham offering. If a kata's offering had its blood received in 2 cups, and one of them was taken outside the courtyard, the inner one remains valid. If one of them was brought inside the sanctuary, Rabbi Yossi Agili validates the offering with the outside cup, but it could come and disqualify it. If Rabbi Yossi Agili, I'm sorry, I said Rabbi Yossi Agili, if in regard to the place about which intent disqualifies outside the courtyard, we do not treat that which remains the same as that which has been taken out. Then, in regard to a place about which intent does not disqualify inside the sanctuary, we should certainly not treat that which remains the same as that which is brought in. If it was brought into the sanctuary to make atonement, even if it was not used to make atonement, it is disqualified. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Shimon says, until he makes an atonement, Rabbi Eliezer says, if he brought it in unintentionally, it's valid. All disqualified bloods which are applied to the altar, the tzitz does not affect their acceptance, except for the blood contaminated with tumah. And for the tzitz renders tumah acceptable, but does not render that which has been taken out as acceptable. Okay, one more. The altar sanctifies that which is fit for it. Rabbi Yeshua says, whatever is fit for the altar fires, once it has gone up on the altar, should not be taken down, as it is stated, is the olah offering that stays on the fire on the altar, just as an olah offering, which is something fit for the altar's fires, should not be taken down once it has gone up on the altar. So too, anything which is fit for the fire should not be taken down once it has gone up on the altar. Rabbi Gamliel says, whatever is fit for the altar should not be taken down once it has gone up on the altar. As it is said, if the olah offering that stays on the fire, on the altar, just as an olah offering which is something fit for the altar should not be taken down once it has gone up on the altar, so too anything which is fit for the altar should not be taken down once it's gone up on the altar. The only difference between the view of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua is in regard to blood and libations, concerning which Rabbi Gamliel said they should not be taken down, and Rabbi Yeshua says they should be taken down. Rabbi Shimon says whether the offering is valid, or the libations are valid, or the libations are valid and the offering is invalid, even if both are invalid, they should be not be taken down, while the libations should be taken down.
Okay. Avos.
Okay. Hey, Test Zion. Right? Yeah. Any love that depends on a particular thing.
No. Yud Zayin. Kol machlokes. Any.
Yud Zion?
Yeah, Yud Zayin.
Wait a second. Hey, Yud Zion?
Yes.
Sorry. Wait a second. I have Hey Yud Dalid, and then it goes to Hey Tesvav.
Yeah, we're doing Kol machlokes. Any argument that is for l'shem shemayim. That's the one we're doing now.
Yeah, but the numbers here say Hey Yud Dalid. Right after Hey Yud Dalid, the next one
It's
is
Tesvav.
Hey Tesvav.
That's correct. And then Tes Zayin, and then Yud Zayin.
Oh, I see what you did. Okay.
Number 17.
No, I see what you did. All right, so we're in 15 now.
No, we're 17 now.
Okay, 17 now. That's what I said. 17. Okay. Any dispute that is for the sake of heaven will endure, but one that is not for the sake of heaven will not endure. And what is an example of a dispute that is for the sake of heaven? The dispute between Hillel and Shammai. And what is an example of a dispute that is not for the sake of heaven? The dispute of Charak and his entire company. Whoever causes the public to do good will not be given the opportunity to sit, but whoever causes the public to do evil will not be given the opportunity to repent. Moses repented and brought merit to the public, and thus the merit of the public is to his credit. As it is said, he carried out the righteousness of Hashem and his ordinances with Israel. Jeroboam, son of Nebat, sinned and caused the public to sin, so therefore the sin of the public is charged against him, as it is said, for the sins of Jeroboam that he committed and he caused Israel to commit. Anyone who has in his hand the following 3 things is counted among the students of our patriarch Abraham, and anyone who has in his hand 3 other things is counted among the students of the evil Bilam. One who has a good eye, a humble spirit, and a reserved nature is counted among the students of our patriarch Abraham, and one who has an evil eye, a haughty spirit, and an indulgent nature is counted among the students of Bilam. What is the difference between students of our patriarch Abraham and of the Bilam? Students of Abraham eat in this world and inherit in the next world, as it is stated in the Torah, that I, the Torah, have what to bequeath to those who love me, and I shall fill their storehouses. The students of the evil Bilam inherit Gehenna and descend to the well of destruction, as it is stated, and you, O God, who will lower them into the well of destruction. Men of bloodshed and deceit shall not live out half their days, but as for me, I trust in you.
Okay. Shavuos, Aleph Zayin.
This applies equally to Yisrael, Kohanim, and to the anointed Kohen. What is the difference between Yisrael and Kohanim and the anointed Kohen? Only that the blood of the bull atones for the Kohanim and for the tumah of the temple and its holy things. Reb Shimon says, just as the blood of the he-goat, which is sanctified inside, atones for Israel, so the blood of the bull atones for the Kohanim. Just as the confession over the he-goat, which is sent away to Azal, atones for Israel, so the confession of the bull atones for the Kohanim. And awareness of tumah is of two types, which are in reality four. If one became tummy and was aware of it, and afterwards the tumah escaped his awareness, but he remembered the holy thing, or awareness of the holy thing escaped him, but he remembered the tumah, or both escaped his awareness, and he ate holy things being unaware, and he became aware after he ate, he is required to bring a viable sin offering. If one became tummy and was aware of it, and afterwards the tumah escaped awareness, he remembered the temple, and awareness of the temple escaped him, but he remembered the tumah, or both of them escaped his awareness, and he entered the temple being unaware, and became aware after he came out. He's required to bring a varial sin offering. Both the one who enters the courtyard and the one who enters the addition to the courtyard are liable, for they did not add up to the city or to the temple courtyards, except with a king, a prophet, the Ur-Turum, and a Sanhedrin of 71, with 2 thanksgiving offerings and with song. The base didn't walk with the 2 thanksgiving offerings after them, and all Israel after them, and the inner one was eaten, and the outer one was burned. Any addition was not made with all these, and whoever enters them therein is not liable for it.
Okay. Okay, Nadarim.
No.
Base.
The base?
Yeah.
Okay. Page. Declarations of Korban. Declarations of Korban. I shall not eat of yours, Korban, if I shall eat of yours and not a Korban, what I shall not eat of yours are not binding. Shavua, I shall not eat of yours. Shavua, if I shall eat of yours, and no Shavua for what I do not eat are binding. This is an instance in which oaths are more stringent than Nadarim. What is an instance in which Nadarim are more stringent than oaths? And if it Kohanim, that sukkah that I am constructing, the lulav that I am taking, and the tefillah that I am wearing as a Nadarim, these declarations are binding as oaths, and they are not binding for one may not swear to transgress the commandments. There is another within another, but there is not, another within another, but
Within a shvua, yeah.
Right. There is another within another, but there is not an oath within an oath. How? If he said, I am a Nazirite, if I eat, I am a Nazirite. If I eat, and he eats, and he's bound by each declaration. Shavua, that I should not eat, Shavua, that I should not eat, and he ate, he's liable for only one. Indeterminate Nadarim are treated stringently and their interpretation leniently. How? If he said, it is to me like salted meat or wine libations, if he vowed of heaven, he is binding. If he vowed of idols, it is not binding. If he is indeterminate, it is binding, and it is to me like cherem. If he meant a cherem to the temple, it is binding. But if he meant a cherem of Kohanim, it is not binding. If it is indeterminate, it is binding. If one said, it is to me like a tithe, if he vowed like the animal tithe, it is binding. And if he vowed of a granary, it is not binding. If it is indeterminate, it is binding, and to me it is like truma. If he vowed concerning the withdrawal from the chamber, it is binding, but if he vowed concerning the granary, it is not binding. If it is indeterminate, the nether is binding. There are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says indeterminate truma is Judea. It is forbidden in Galil. It is permitted because people in Galil are not familiar with the withdrawals from the chamber. Indeterminate karamim in Judea, they are permissible, and in Galil they are binding, because the people of Galilee are not familiar with Rayim of Kohanim.
Okay.
And we have my six. So. Okay. A person. I'm sorry, I'm the wrong one. It should be 7, right?
It's 8. It's the last one.
Okay. Above Bechi, garlic, onions, Silhian beans, and Ipshu lentils. Reb Meir says also caucasia. Reb Yossi says also wild lentils are exempt from Maasros, and may be bought from anyone in the 7th year in the highest seed pods of the Ara. The seeds of leeks, the seeds of onions, seeds of turnips and radishes, and other seeds of garden produce which do not serve as food are exempt from Maasros, and they may be bought from anyone in the 7th year until they were grown. With truma stock, they may be eaten. Okay.
Hey, Hadran Alach, Masechus Masros. Masesheni.
Going to be Aleph. Aleph? Right?
Aleph.
Good, because we just finished one. Or am I on 3?
No, you're Aleph.
Aleph, right, okay. Ma'aser Sheni should not be sold or pledged or bartered, nor may it be used as a weight, and one should not say to his fellow in Yerushalayim, here is wine, give me oil. So also with any other produce, but they may not give it to another one as a free gift. Ma'aser of cattle, which when unblemished may not be sold alive, and when blemished neither alive nor slaughtered, nor may be betrothed a woman with it. A first thing when unblemished may be sold alive, and when blemished both alive and slaughtered, and women betroth a woman with it. Ma'aser Sheni may not be redeemed with an summon, and or with a coin which is not current, or with money that is not at one's disposal.
Okay. That's it. And Nagayim.
Right.
So we said that the context leading into this is that when you're checking for Nagayim, you've got to you can't if the second check comes out on a Shabbos or something like that, then you have to wait until the next day, and that can be a kula or it can be a chumrah. And yesterday we dealt with how it can be a kula, and then you can. Okay.
Are we doing?
Now, how is it? How can it be a chumrah? You can go ahead. Mishna Vav.
Right. How does the postponement cause stringency? The nega contained no white hair, and white hair appeared on it. The hairs were black and turned white. One was black and one white, and they both turned white. They were short and became long. One was short and the other one long. And when they both became long, a boil touched or surrounded one or both hairs. The hairs were separated by a boil, the healing skin of a boil or burn, or the healing skin of a burn or a dull white blemish, and then the boil, burn, or blemish disappeared. Nega did not contain living skin, and living skin appeared. The living skin was round or oblong and became square. The living skin was on the side of the nega and became surrounded. The living skin was scattered and became together. A boil covered the living skin, a boil, the living skin of a boil, a burn, the living skin of a burn, or a dull white blemish surrounded the divider or made the living skin smaller, and then the boil, burn, or blemish disappeared. And the nega had no expansion, and it expanded a boil, and the living skin of a boil or burn, and the living skin of a burn or a dull white blemish divided the original nega from the expansion, and then the boil, burn, or blemish disappeared. This causes stringency. A bright baharis appeared dull on a light complexion skin. Light complexion person. Or a dull blemish appeared bright on an Ethiopian. Reb Ishmael says the children of Israel for whom I should be their atonement, or like boxwood, either black or white, but an determinate color. Reb Akiva says painters have dyes which would say paint shapes in black, white, and intermediate shades. He brings a dye of an intermediate color and paints around the nega, which is then examined by comparing it to the intermediate color. Reb Yehuda says appearances of negayim are dealt with leniently and not strictly, and light complexion person examined leniently by comparing the nega and with his own skin, whereas an Ethiopian is examined leniently by comparing the nega to an intermediate color, and the pages say both are compared to an intermediate color. We do not examine nega in the early morning, nor in the late afternoon, nor inside the house, nor on a cloudy day, because what is dull appears bright. Nor do we examine negayim in the middle of the day, because what is bright appears dull. When do we examine? During the third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth, and ninth hours. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says during the fourth, fifth, eighth, and ninth hours.
Okay, Adkan.
Okay, I can't lose that thing again because it really. Okay.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.